What's up, guys? It's your man, Donovan Sharpe, and shout out to Robert Littall over at Black Sports Online for this topic. Let's go ahead and get right to it here. So Evelyn Lozada was interviewed by Jason Lee for the Jason Lee Show, and the topic of ESPN's Stephen A. Smith came up. Now, before we watch the clip, let me give you guys just a real quick background on this 48-year-old pro-ho who's probably been engaged more time than she's been pregnant. Evelyn Lozada gained most of her celebrity and notoriety starring on a reality show called Basketball Wives, as well as a reality show she did with her ex-husband, Chad Johnson, also known as Chad Ochocinco. She was also on Iyanla Vanzant's Iyanla Fix My Life, because women who live Miss Lozada's lifestyle tend to be emotionally unstable and drawn to chaos and drama. So it should come as no surprise that she was clearly in need of therapy. Anyway, let's go to her dating history here. So she had a kid with Jamal Hairston, a daughter by the name of Shanice, who's roughly 30 years old now. Since she gave birth to Shanice back in '93, she's dated a bunch of pro athletes and has also been linked to other entertainers and athletes. She was engaged to former NBA star Antoine Walker. She also dated Kenny Anderson and Kenyon Martin, both former NBA players, after she dated French Montana. She also had a kid with former LA Dodgers outfielder Carl Crawford and was married to future Hall of Famer that I mentioned before, Chad Johnson. Now, her and Chad Johnson, they got divorced back in 2012 after a 2-year engagement, but the marriage lasted less than 3 months due to a domestic incident roughly a month after they tied the knot. Chad ended up pleading no contest in exchange for no jail time. I think they gave him a year of probation after that. Most recently, she had been engaged to Lavon Lewis, but according to reports, they split back in October of 2023. So, like most of these reality TV stars, Ms. Lozada's made her rounds with her share of professional athletes and entertainers. And that brings us to this interview she did with Jason Lee, who simply showed her a picture of ESPN's biggest star, Stephen A. Smith. Now, if you like what you're seeing and hearing, guys, listen, do your boy a solid, hit that like button. Likes are the most influential metric that YouTube looks at in terms of pushing videos up in the algorithm. So, if you could take just a few milliseconds, give this video a thumbs up. I'd greatly, greatly appreciate that. A sub would also be appreciated. Okay, let's see what Evelyn said about Stephen A. here.
Oh, no. Oh, no. I would never date Stephen. And you know why? I'm going to tell you, and I'm going to keep it a buck right here, Jason. When the happened between Chad and I, he was talking so much
Really?
And he was one of the main people that made me feel this small. And because of what I was going through, I just felt like it was hard for me. You know how we talked about feeling re-victimized? Like he was one of the main people that talked about my situation with Chad. He was very negative and it was difficult. So yeah, I would never date him. Even outside of that, I would never date him, period.
I didn't even know that. But you know, it's interesting because he was the same one that tried to pit Rihanna and Beyonce against each other. And it was like really nasty in the way he did it. So I find it very interesting. I didn't know that happened to you with him.
Yeah, and I felt, every time I see him or whenever he has an opinion about some I always think about that because it was really, really hurtful for me. You know, here I am, I'm going through this very public, you know, divorce, breakup. It was, you know, Chad was doing interviews. He was still trying to get back with me at the time. Like there was so much controversy around it. I'm getting blamed for everything that happens. And he was one of the people that pretty much made me feel like just horrible about speaking up and living in my truth.
So the first question that comes to my mind is, why is Stephen A. Smith's name coming up in the first place? Right? Like, why would Jason Lee indirectly ask her if she would date Stephen A. Smith? And after thinking about this for a little while, it became pretty clear to me what the motive was. Evelyn Lozada is just clout chasing. Think about it. She's less than 2 years from being a half 100. She isn't relevant anymore, and she wanted to get her name out there. Think about it. Why else would she bring up her ex-husband, Chad Johnson, who she divorced 12 years ago? Why? Because Chad Johnson is more relevant than she is. And if you guys have noticed over the years, every chance she gets, this chick always brings up her marriage to Chad Johnson. Despite having divorced him over a decade ago for what she described as, quote, irretrievably broken, she continues to mention Chad no matter what the topic is. Hey, Miss Lozada, your daughter just turned 30. How's your relationship changed? Well, we have such a great relationship, just like Chad and me before everything went south. And then, of course, you cue the waterworks. What's more is that Jason Lee's staff, they are insulting the intelligence of their viewers and listeners by pretending that Evelyn Lozada did not know that Stephen A would be a topic of conversation. Guys, I'm here to tell you, that whole exchange, that was rehearsed. They sat down in the production meeting and they decided that this would be a topic of conversation. This wasn't some random off-the-wall ad-lib. Oh, here's a picture of Stephen A. Let me show you. No. This was planned and executed according to plan. And the reason it was agreed upon that Jason show her a picture of Stephen A was so that she could mention Chad, right? As she said in that clip, Stephen A had some comments about her divorce. Stephen A basically said, hey, we're all piling on Chad here. Why don't we take a closer look at Evelyn Lozada? Now, if Chad Johnson did, in fact, do what he was accused of doing, then he should have definitely been charged. No question about it. However, in a lot of these cases, there is sometimes more to the story. Not that that absolves Chad of the alleged crime. And before the whales get their oversized panties in a bunch, I am in no way saying that it is okay for a man to put his hands on a woman. And neither did Stephen A. But as we all know, anyone who doesn't just blindly take the side of the alleged victim, especially if she's a woman in incidents like these, they're attacked and marginalized. And this is why we know Miss Lozada's clout chasing. She's talking about an incident that happened back in 2012. Yet here we are in 2024 still talking about it for no other reason but to get relevance and clicks and likes. Remember, gentlemen, this is a 48-year-old woman we're talking about here. She's still getting passed around by rappers and athletes. She's a baby mama with 2 baby daddies. She's been engaged a bunch of times. I mean, really, other than her net worth, what makes us think that Evelyn Lozada's not really a glorified hood rat? I mean, she was raised in the Bronx after all, and she's Puerto Rican. And I don't know about you guys, but anyone who's been around and dated and dealt with Puerto Rican women know that these women can be even more difficult to deal with than even black women. Look, man, you can take the girl out of the hood, but you can't take the hood out of the girl. To me, this was an obvious ploy to get clicks and to get her name in the news again. Stephen A probably hasn't even thought about Evelyn since 2012, yet here she is telling people she'd never date him. Miss Lozada, I think we can all agree that Stephen A. Smith would never date you, and you know it. You're like the plus-size girl who says, well, I would never date hot guys with abs and tattoos, or the bad employee who says, well, you can't fire me, but I quit. What she's really doing here is she's preemptively avoiding rejection. This is something that plus-size girls not so easy on the eyes, and older women who have clearly hit the wall, they all love to talk about the men they wouldn't date. Evelyn thought, she actually thought that she'd make headlines and make herself look good by rejecting an offer. The problem was she rejected an offer that was never made to her, which makes her look even dumber. Stephen A. wants nothing to do with this old heifer. She's been passed around like a common cold and has an 8-year-old kid to take care of. The hell's she doing talking about the men she would never date? What the hell's she doing still talking about Chad Johnson? She ain't fielding any offers, at least not from the men she wants. In the end, this was an obvious setup from the start. Evelyn Lozada's diminishing relevance, to me, was clearly the motivation for this particular topic. She got to mention the biggest star at ESPN, who's also now a celebrity, and put her ex-husband's name back in her mouth for the 1100th time since they divorced. So mission accomplished for Evelyn. But after this, she'll go back to being invisible to the men she wants, just like every other post-wall baller bimbo who's made her way around the league.